Hey friends, welcome back to your most creative weird makeup artist pal on the internet, Cat Sketch. Today we're going to be doing a makeup transformation. Not only any makeup transformation, but I don't know about y'all, but I'm a super big Lord of the Rings fan. I had to turn into an orc. Honestly, it was for me to do this like TikTok audio.
This is my audition to be in the next Lord of the Rings movie as an orc.
That I found and I thought of you. Perfect. You could definitely check out my TikTok. Links will be down below. But we are going to be turning to an orc today, and not only that, but talking about cryptids that I've never heard of personally. I don't know if you have. One of them is called the Yowie. That's like a Bigfoot. Anyways, we're going to get into it, talk about creepy cryptid stories. And the reason I wanted to talk about, cryptids while turning into an orc is because isn't orcs, I feel like they would be a cryptid from our nightmares if they existed in real life and didn't live under Sauron's rule. How creepy. So let's talk about cryptids while turning into an orc and get started. Meet the Yowie, the Bigfoot-like cryptid that's terrified Australia for centuries. A 2021 report of a Yowie in Queensland is just another in a long series of alleged encounters with this terrifying creature of an Aboriginal myth. From snakes to scorpions, the Australian outback is infamous and contains a wealth of very fearsome animals. But the legend also states that this vast wilderness is home to more than one mythical creature, including a Bigfoot-like beast called a Yowie. Throughout encounters from Europeans only date to the 19th century, stories from Australians, Indigenous Aboriginal people are believed to go back much further. These tales speak of an enormous beast similar to an ape, earning the creatures nicknames like the hairy man of the wood. There's even a sketch of a Yowie that a man made after being followed by it allegedly in 2021 in a sighting in Queensland. From the most recent sightings to the folklore surroundings this terrifying behemoth, he's everything you need to know about Australia's Yowie. During this harrowing 2021 Yowie sighting in Queensland, there were 3 men that could hardly believe their eyes. These men were on a darkened street in Queensland, Australia in December of 2021 when they came face to face with a Yowie. They said they were in utter disbelief of what we were seeing. By a man named Sterling Slock Bennett, who spotted this elusive cryptid along with a man named Seamus Fitzgerald and one other man, whom all worked on a plantation together. He added it was definitely a scary moment for him, in that he was so confused and shook of what he was seeing. And as they got closer and closer, it didn't make sense like you'd hope. The 3 men came across the alleged Yowie on December 4th as they made their way to Jimnan Base Camp. As they tell it, they first notice a slouched figure lurking underneath a streetlight. Fitzgerald described the beast as having an ape-like face and very long arms. They initially thought it was a boar or a really big animal until they got closer and saw it run off in a very ape-like way, Fitzgerald was explaining. This experience left them shaken and questioning the understanding of the world. They've never really had a paranormal or strange experience like this before. They hardly slept that night and were feeling overwhelmed that what they had seen something that they had never believed in previously. The sightings encouraged others to explore North Queensland in hopes of catching a glimpse of a Yowie, who apparently emerged often during storms. And Fitzgerald's experience had inspired him to learn more about this mythical beast. They are very intrigued to find out what other people have seen and experienced this creature. Indeed, theirs is hardly the very first Yowie sighting in Australian history. Scattered encounters with the beast have occurred from 1790 until today. The legend of the Yowie starts with Australia's Aboriginal people, the Kuku Yalanji tribe, of far north Queensland claim that they long coexisted with the Yowie, though it has been reported that this Yowie has attacked them on more than one occasion. According to legends, there are two types of Yowie. One can grow up to 10 feet tall. The other one is only about 4 to 5 feet tall. Generally, they're described as having ape-like faces, orangey brown hair that grows up to 2 or 4 inches long. Though this creature is often shy, it can turn very aggressive and violent. Though many naturally doubt the existence of the Yowie, some Aboriginal cave art seems to depict tall, hairy creatures painted alongside the Aboriginal humans. Some have suggested that this is a sign that the Yowie was an early hominoid that since when it was extinct or perhaps merely disappeared deep into the Australian outback away from human eyes. Since the 19th century, recorded sightings of this creature are plentiful. There is one written record from 1842 that stated, "The natives of Australia believe in the Yowie," this being that they described as resembling a man of nearly the same height, with long white hair hanging down from the head over its features. The arms are extraordinarily long, furnished at the extremities with long talons, and the feet turned backwards so that on flying from man, the imprint of the foot appears as if its being had traveled in the opposite direction. Although they have described it as a hideous monster of an unearthly character and ape-like appearance. Meanwhile, a report from the 1880s states that naturalist Henry James Myuu saw the creature in New South Wales, but according to him, it was 5 feet tall, and that it was tailless and covered in very long black hair. This describes the Yowie have indeed varied over the years, but the terror and the wonder have remained the same all the way to present day. To this day, the legend of the Yowie still seems to have a great grip on Australia. According to Dean Harrison from Australian's Yowie Research, hundreds of people have reported sightings of the cryptid in recent years. He's even supposedly seen one Yowie himself. It was like nothing he'd ever seen before in his entire life. He knew he had to move, and the moment he did this, the thing roared. Harrison said, calling the experience life-changing. He said he thought he was going to die, but then it started running ahead of him, and so he veered away from the forest tree lines. A Yowie hunter named Steve Piper captured what he believes to be the mysterious creature on film in the year 2000. That film has achieved notoriety among cryptid enthusiasts, much like the Patterson-Gimlin film from the United States that alleges to depict Bigfoot himself. Does this Yowie exist? Are these legends true? Some people, including Slockok Bennett Fitzgerald and their co-worker, will certainly insist that the creature is really out there. And just like Bigfoot or the Yeti, this legendary beast is purported to hide deep in the woods and only rarely crosses paths with humans. But maybe you need to see it yourself to believe it. This next creepy cryptid story is called the Flatwoods Monster of West Virginia. After 7 Braxton County, West Virginia residents reported seeing the Flatwoods Monster while investigating what looked like a UFO crash to them, local authorities scoured the scene, but they found nothing and reportedly just laughed off the reports as hysteria. On one clear evening in September of 1952, there were several boys in the Flatwoods, West Virginia area that spotted a strange object streak through the sky. It appeared to land at a nearby field, so they headed over to investigate and reportedly came across a 10-foot tall creature that's since become known as the Flatwoods Monster. The mother of these 2 boys, Kathleen May, and a teenage National Guardsman, Gene Lemon, were 2 members of the group who claimed to have seen this monster. They went on to give interviews and reports and even shared their encounters on national television. They were spreading the story of the Flatwoods Monster across the country. But local police found no evidence to back up their claims, and a subsequent investigation by the U.S. Air Force concluded that there was nothing paranormal about what they had seen at all. But these 7 witnesses reclaimed adamant that whatever had happened that September night was anything but ordinary. There have been no report sightings of the Flatwood Monster since 1952, but the mysterious cryptid continues to draw visitors to rural Braxton County, West Virginia to this very day. On September 12th in 1952, a group of boys were playing in the schoolyard in a tiny town of Flatwoods, West Virginia, and one of them suddenly gave out a shout that turned all of the children's attention to the sky above. According to history, they saw a pulsing red light that streaked through the air and crashed into a local farm. 2 of the boys was 13-year-old Ed May and his 12-year-old brother Freddie. They ran home with their friends to tell their mother Kathleen what they had seen, and Mrs. May and the 5 young boys were joined by a 17-year-old National Guardsman named Gene Lemon and the Mays family dog as they trekked to the farm to investigate. As they approached the wooded area near an open field near this farm, they noticed an odd mist. Lemon even thought he spotted a pair of glowing eyes in a tree. Suddenly, a Frankenstein-like monster emerged directly in front of them. Lemon, the guardsman, later described this creature as a 10-foot-tall monster with a blood-red body and a green face that seemed to glow. Its head was shaped like a spade. It had clawed hands, and it seemed to be wearing a dark metal dress. The group immediately turned and fled. A local high schooler later recalled that he'd heard about the incident. One of the boys peed his pants. Their dog ran with its tail between his legs. The terrified witnesses immediately informed the police about what they'd seen, and they weren't the only ones. When investigators went to the farm to corroborate what Mrs. May and the 6 boys had seen, they found nothing amiss. A local newspaper wrote at the time that state police laughed off reports as hysteria. However, the September 12th sighting wasn't the only recorded incident regarding the Flatwoods Monster. According to official website Braxton County, West Virginia, multiple other residents had encounters with similar unexplainable beings around the same time. Several days before this event that happened in Flatwoods, a woman named Audra Harper, who lived 5 miles north of Flatwoods, said she was walking through the woods with her friends when they saw a ball of fire on a hill. They thought nothing of it and just assumed that a farmer was simply burning something in his field. However, when Harper glanced back, she saw a dark silhouette of an eerily tall man emerging from the spot where the flames had just been blazing. Then on September 13th, a young couple was driving on a rural route 20 miles south of Flatwoods when their car had broken down. George and Edith Sinowski were with their 18-month-old son. They were desperate to get their vehicle back on the road as darkness fell. Suddenly, they smelled sulfur. If you know that smell, it is not great. And a bright light filled the sky. They looked up and there was a 10-foot-tall monster hovering in front of them. It had clawed hands and a reptilian head. The creature had touched their car before drifting off into the nearby woods, and the vehicle suddenly started up again. However, these incidences didn't get nearly as much attention as the sighting by Mrs. May and the 6 boys. Their story quickly spread, and the Flatwoods Monster was soon making headlines across the country. Though local police almost immediately dismissed the story of the Flatwoods Monster as hysteria, others weren't so sure. One newspaper publisher who spoke with Mrs. May and the boys immediately after the incident said, "Those people were the most scared people I've ever seen. People don't make up that kind of story that quickly." Mrs. May and Gene Lemon were invited to New York to speak about their experience on CBS. And news of the monster soon spread so far that even the US Air Force got involved. Their conclusion, however, was similar to that of the local police. The Air Force determined that the streak the boys had seen in the sky was a meteor, which had been spotted 300 miles away in Baltimore at the very same time. As for the clawed monster with glowing eyes, well, investigators said it was simply an owl. The mystery of the Flatwoods Monster endures to this day. Roadside America reports that this tiny West Virginia town has embraced the legend, and there's even a museum dedicated to the cryptid that attracts believers of the paranormal from far and wide. We may never know the truth about the Flatwoods Monster, but the legend will continue to live on. So that is all the stories about the Flatwoods Monster and the Yowie, and this was so fun to create this orc. I so believe that orcs would be considered a cryptid, and not just in Middle Earth, but how creepy would these be in real life? This was so much fun, so time consuming to make. This honestly took me over 5 hours, but it was well worth it. I hope you guys enjoyed this Middle Earth orc makeup look. Leave me a comment down below on what you guys would love to see in a future video. I hope you guys enjoy. We do videos on Fridays. I'm gonna be leaving town soon, but stick around for more videos. We have a huge series coming up that I'm so excited and preparing for. I hope you guys have been having great days, and I will see you next time in the next video. Love y'all. Bye.